we have 4 different muscle types when we're referring to their actions. Okay, so the first is the agonist muscles. No, but you can write these things down. You have to write 4 numbers in a. This is muscle types. Yeah. All right, so the agonist is the prime mover, right? So this is the big muscle in a set of muscles that's doing most of the work. And so an example of an agonist would be the biceps brachii. I do not know how to spell brachii all of a sudden. Is that right?
Yeah, it's
okay. Doesn't look right for some reason. Okay. All right, so you have the prime mover, and then you have generally a bunch of smaller muscles, which are synergists. Okay, they let's just say they add to the agonist contraction. All right, so what are some synergists to the biceps brachii? Okay, brachialis is one. And then another one which sounds similar, brachioradialis. Okay, they're all in the same area, just attached to different parts of essentially the same bone. Okay? And then you have an antagonist. Okay, which is counteracting the movement of the agonist, right? So, opposite to the agonist. Right. Mind blowing. Right? And if you'll notice, antagonistic muscles, how would they be located to each other? Right, on opposite sides of, a major bone, generally. Right, a flexor and an extensor. One is moving it this way, one's moving that way. So the antagonist to the biceps brachii would then be triceps. All right, and then lastly you have fixators, okay, which immobilize so they immobilize a bone or a structure. The best example of this is there are lots of things that attach to the scapula. The scapula is just kind of, floating in your back. But when you have extensors or working on the scapula, you have immobilized, which are keeping it in place and resisting the movement in another direction. Okay, so we could say the muscles of the scapula. Okay, depending on what movement, the whole host of different muscles there could slightly resist that movement to immobilize the scapula and keep it in place. All right, so those are our 4 muscle types based on the actions that they cause during contraction. All right, so each muscle then has an origin, an insertion, and an action, okay? And in other anatomy classes, it's not uncommon that you have to know all of these things for each muscle. It's a lot of information. Okay, the origin is generally the immobile structure during contraction, so the stable point. The insertion is on the movable, right, structure or bone. And the actions we already know. We learned them with the joints, right? What are some of the actions? Extension, flexion, abduction, adduction, rotation. Right, we've got a big long list of these different actions which are associated with the joints but are caused by muscle contraction. Okay, so we are not going to focus on origin and insertion, but I do want you to know the actions of each of the muscles. Now, a lot of the muscles are named after their actions. Some of them are named after their origin and insertion. So all that information, of course, is important. But we're just going to focus on the action. So what exactly is the muscle doing? Okay, so the way that we're going to do that is through this worksheet. Okay, I went through all the figures in your book, and I blanked out all the muscles that you needed to know, and then I added boxes where they didn't have it labeled. So there were a bunch of muscles. I don't know why they don't have more labels on it, but there were a bunch of muscles that just weren't labeled in the figures, so I added them in there for you. You're welcome. And you've got your video lecture notes. Okay, go through your video lecture notes. Go through these figures. You guys can work together and fill them in. Okay? And that's what we're going to do with the rest of our time.
Can you go back to the first page?
Yeah. And that's it.